Thanks Nilesh and Ketan, both of you all for coming in today. And so I just want to quick introduction to both of these guys, whom I have known for at least I think now more than 20 years. And Nilesh has been the ex-president of the Chartered Accountant ICI. He's been the Chartered Accountant, and he's also part of so many committees. I was thinking like even if I was in one of the committees, I would have felt like I've really achieved something. But when I saw his list, I realized I should not even have a look at my CV after that. He's amazing. And then I also see that he's also on the board of a lot of companies as a chairman and also as an independent director. And he has been associated with he's also partner of Kimji Coercion Company, which is one of India's leading chartered accountancy firms. And I had a good fortune of working with them for a year, somewhere in 2011-12. And I am sure I learned a lot from them. And the best thing was their office. It is virtually like a Buddhist temple, you can say. And they have got so much of space for meditation inside. And every Thursday people come down to do meditation at their office, which is really very, very amazing. And the best part about them is they are like so much into Vipassana and a lot of good work that is done. Yeah, I can request the others to keep them mute for a few minutes. Deepak? Hello. Sridhar, you can mute them.
I'm doing in a video.
Yeah. Hello, Deepak? Yeah. Yes. So.
Bye, Mangaru. This thing was going on in your room. I went to say bye to you. No, okay. Yeah, that I left it just to say that.
Sridhar?
Rao, please put it on mute.
Stay flight.
Rajalakshmi Rao, please put it on mute. Thank you.
Yeah. So what I've seen them is that they are so grounded in the work that they do on Vipassana, and every year, even Ketan to virtually goes every year to attend the Vipassana Shibir for 11 to up to 20 days, and even Nilesh has been going more than 10 to 12 times over the last 15-20 years. So I've seen that their dedication. So I felt that they are the right people to come today and introduce the concept about Vipassana. And luckily for me, I have also tasted Vipassana almost 10 years back. I've attended a 10-day, 11-day workshop, the course with them, and have benefited immensely. So I felt this is a good space for them to come and give us then some more insights about what is this meditation, how it has helped them in their lives, and maybe we can also pick up something and use it in their lives. And definitely in our lifetime we should experience this Vipassana meditation at least once. So that is my request to everybody. So let me tell you a little bit about this group as well. Our group is called the Lost Key Group, which consists of mainly people from the corporate who have some interest in spirituality. So this group was formed almost 7-8 years back, and it's called the Lost Key, which means we are looking about what is it about ourselves spiritually that we are seeking. And so each one of us have come from different backgrounds. Nobody is from one particular group here. So we come from different backgrounds. Somebody is from ISKCON, somebody is from Satya Sai Baba, somebody is from the Isha Foundation. And we conduct this every week. And every week we get a very good speaker who comes and speaks to us about something very, very interesting. And the last, I think for 3 months consecutively, we are having it on Saturdays. So this Saturday we have Nilesh Vikamsi and Ketan who will be taking us to Vipassana. Next week we have got Mr. Ramesh Iyer, who is the chairman and managing director of Mahindra Finance Group, who will be talking to us about corporate spirituality. So every week we are planning to have something nice. So over to you, Nilesh. So you can just take us through what is that you have experienced, and how we can also experience the same taste of what you have. And I've always seen you so grounded and happy, and despite you reaching such heights, I've always found that really something which I admire in you, and I pray that you get more and more of that. So thank you so much, Nilesh. So over to you.
Thank you, Jagdish. First of all, let me start as a typically like a chartered accountant, like an auditor, with a caveat that I am not an expert on Vipassana. Yeah, I have practiced Vipassana. So what I'll be communicating to is how I understand it. And just to support me, what I've done is luckily Ketan was supposed to be traveling and he's not traveling. So wherever some more emphasis is required or some points if I'm missing out, I would request him to sort of chip in at an appropriate time. Friends, today is Teachers' Day, and I would say before we begin, let's close our eyes and remember all our teachers, starting with our parents, family members, and if not anybody, the Vipassana was brought into India by a gentleman called Satyanarayan Goenka. He's my teacher, and some of the people who have done Vipassana in this particular thing. So all our teachers who have helped us in our lifetime, let's just once, minute, just close our eyes and remember pay our respect and obeisance to them. Thank you. Hope you have remembered today. What we are is thanks to our teachers. And it's a fantastic coincidence that Jagdish, you requested me, and incidentally, the Teachers Day. And for me, it is my gratitude towards all my teachers that I can, pay back on today's day. And Vipassana is one of them. So my, paying back to our Guruji, Satyanarayan Goenka ji, who sort of brought in Vipassana into our country. Friends, before I get into what is Vipassana, let me tell you a very interesting episode, how I got into Vipassana. So that will, be a very, very interesting episode. I became a CA before I turned 21, about a month or two before I became 21, around 20 years and 11 months, July and August, I turned 21 in 1985. I had to wait for my degree for a year. I sort of waited for a degree, and for me, a firm is a family firm. My father was there, brother was there. So it was a no-brainer in those times that I just joined my firm and became a partner. And luckily at that point of time, as luck would have had it, there was a huge increase in practice thanks to the that was the year in which tax audits were introduced. That was the year in which stockbroker audits were introduced. So huge expansion of practice, etc. And I just sort of went into the full throttle into the practice in 1985. Around about that time, I had an article trainee called Mukund Soni. He was behind my back. Nilesh, why don't you go and do Vipassana? Why don't you go and do Vipassana? And I used to listen in one year and take it out of the other year. Not that I was disrespectful of anything. I said all these things have to be done post 50. The age of 21 to 50 is to work, slog, earn, create a name. And then after post 50, post retirement, I think those are the things of Vipassana and all the other spiritual things to be done. That was the thinking which I had. So he kept on persisting. I kept on listening, and I, sort of kept on ignoring him in this sense. One fine day, he, sort of came to me somewhere in the early, 1986. He said, Nilesh, you're not going for 10 days to do Vipassana. At least do one thing. Pujya Guruji, Satyanarayan Goenka ji is coming and addressing at Bharati Vidya Bhavan in Chopati under the auspices of Indian Vegetarian Congress, and it was the World Vegetarian Day. Come with me to listen to him for 2 hours or 1 hour or whatever the time span was. So I thought in my mind, this fellow will stop pestering me. I'll go once with him, and then I will, sort of just be done. So he'll stop pestering me in future not to, go to Vipassana and all. I went to Bharati Vidya Bhavan, heard Guruji on that day, Goenka ji. I stepped out of the auditorium and I told Mukund, I am doing this ASAP. And the reason I am telling you is the amount of purity what Guruji emanated, the amount of scientific rationale in the whole Vipassana, what he sort of expressed, absolutely convinced me. I was a 21-year-old, boy at that time. And so I was convinced that this is, needs to be done. But unfortunately, as I told you, the practice was, absolutely going great guns at that point of time. I could not extricate myself out of the practice in going for Vipassana, which is, I got the first chance in 1989, February 1989, when I was, that time the uniform accounting year had come into the Indian corporates under the company law and under the Income Tax Act. So it gave me an opportunity to, manage some time. And February 1989, I remember that was the first time I went. And again, incidentally, friends, believe me, I got engaged in September 1988. My marriage was in January 90, and this was somewhere in the middle. And that time, Vipassana was not known. Today, of course, it's very widely known. And my in-laws, who are from Dhulia, which is again 4-5 hours from Igatpuri, where the largest center of Vipassana is, they thought this gentleman is going to become a sannyasi now. He's going into all the spiritual thing. And but I think you've seen me now, that is 1986, 1989, 31 years hence. I've not become a sannyasi. I'm as worldly as anybody else. And I'll tell you how Vipassana has, helped me and changed me. And so that was the background, the interesting episode, how I got, introduced into Vipassana. Friends, what I'm planning to do first is take you through the official version of what is Vipassana, and then I will go a little bit more in detail into, exactly what has been my experience and how, what is there in Vipassana. So I will say Vipassana means to see things as they are. It is, if you look at Sanskrit, you special, introspection of yourself to see things as they really are. And it is one of the most ancient techniques of meditation in India. It was rediscovered, friends, mark my words, not discovered, it was rediscovered by Gautama the Buddha more than 2,500 years ago, and was taught by him as a universal remedy for all universal ills. That is what is we call the art of living. Now, today you'll see the art of living is what is propagated by Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, which is also a very good thing. But the word art of living was sort of branded by William Hart, who was doing Vipassana, and he came out with a book called The Art of Living much before the Sri Sri Ravi Shankarji's Art of Living came into India. But that be that as it may, we're not into what it is. This non-sectarian technique, there is no religion, no sect, restriction of any sect doing it, aims for total eradication of mental impurities and the resultant highest happiness of full liberation. Vipassana is a way of self-transformation through self-observation. It focuses on the deep interconnection between mind and body, which can be experienced directly by disciplined attention to the physical sensations that form the life of the body and that continuously interconnect and condition the life of the mind. It is an observation-based self-exploratory journey to the common root of the mind and body that dissolves mental impurity, resulting in a balanced, mindful of love and compassion. So generally what we see is, friends, we've got 5 senses. We've got the eyes, we've got the ears, the nose, the tongue, and the feel, the touch. And this permanently keep on doing something. We keep on interacting. This 5 indriya, what we call the senses. And there's always an interplay between this, the outside world, and with this, through this indriyas on our mind. And I'll speak a little bit more on that. The scientific laws that operates one's thoughts, judgments, and sensations become clear when we observe ourselves. Through direct experience, your own self-experience, the nature of how one grows or regresses, how one produces suffering or frees oneself from suffering is understood when we start observing ourselves. Life becomes characterized by increased awareness, non-delusion, and self-control and peace. What is the tradition? Since the time of Buddha, Vipassana has been handed down in the Guru Shishyan Parampara by an unbroken chain of teachers. Although Indian by descent, the current teacher in this chain, Satyanarayan Goenka, was born and raised in Burma. While living there, he had a good fortune to learn Vipassana from his teacher, Reverend Sayagyi Uba Khin, who was at that time one of the highest government officials, having multiple duties. He was the equivalent of a comptroller and auditor general, plus number of other duties in the Myanmar government at that point of time. After receiving training from his teacher for 14 years, Mr. Goenka settled in India and began teaching Vipassana in 1969 in India. Since then, he has taught tens of thousands of people of all races, all religions, and both in the East and the West. And today I can say, when he must have himself taught tens of thousands of students, but I think overall Vipassana would have been learned by lakhs and millions of people across the world, because now the assistant teachers are spread out. There are hundreds of centers all across the world in almost all the countries of the world. The technique is taught at a 10-day residential course, during which the participants follow a prescribed code of discipline, learn the basics of the method, and practice sufficiently to experience its beneficial results. Now, one of the code of discipline over there is, out of the 10 days, 9 days, there is complete silence. You can only talk to the teacher who's teaching you if you've got any issues in the technique of meditation, or you can talk to the volunteers if you need something. Suppose you are having cold and you want to say a tablet or whatever. So to that extent, you can talk to the volunteers who are there or to the teacher for meditation technique. The course requires hard, serious work. There are 3 steps to the training. The first step is for the period of the 10 days, you need to abstain from killing, not even killing the mosquitoes, stealing, not to steal, not to do any sexual activity for those 10 days, not to speak lies, no lies, and not to use any intoxicants on those 10 days. This simple code of moral conduct serves to calm the mind, which otherwise would be too agitated to perform the task of self-observation. The next step is to develop some mastery over the mind by learning to fix one's attention on the natural reality of ever-changing flow of breath as it enters and leaves the nostrils. I will speak a little bit more about it and may come into my own normal explanation. By the fourth day, the mind is calmer and more focused, better able to undertake the practice of Vipassana itself, observing sensations throughout the body, understanding their nature, and developing equanimity by learning not to react to them. Finally, on the last day, the participants learn the meditation of loving kindness. We call it Maitri, or goodwill towards all, in which the purity developed during the course is shared with all beings. The entire practice is actually mental training. Just as we use physical exercise to improve our body health, Vipassana is used to develop a healthy mind. Because it has been found to be genuinely helpful, great emphasis put on preserving the technique in its original authentic form. There is no fees for the technique. It is completely free. Even your stay, food is absolutely free. No person involved in teaching receives any material remuneration. There are no charges for the course, not even to cover the, as I told you, the cost for the food and the accommodation. All expenses are met by donation from people who have completed the course and experienced the benefit of Vipassana, what they want to give you as for their own volition. There is no compulsion to give any amount over there. Of course, the results come gradually through continued practice. It is unrealistic to expect all the problems to be solved in 10 days. Within that time, however, the essentials of Vipassana can be learned so that it can be applied in daily life. The more the technique is practiced, the greater the freedom from misery and the closer the approach to the ultimate goal of full liberation. Even 10 days can provide results which are vivid and obviously beneficial in everyday life. All sincere people are welcome to join a Vipassana course to see for themselves how the technique works and to measure the benefits. All those who will try it will find Vipassana to be an invaluable tool with which to achieve and share real happiness with others. And this was the official version of Vipassana, just to make, it's very important that we don't, miss out on any of the tools. But now I'll get into my own experience. What my experience with Vipassana has been, we all of us are religious, depending on whichever religion we follow, whether it's Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, whichever religion one is following. But what is happening more and more, friends, today is the religious activities are becoming more ritualistic. We are losing the essence of the religion. I think whatever is there in the religious text, but we are just, sort of being religiously ritualistic. We go to the temples, but we come out of the temple and we are as bad a human being as we were earlier. We don't improve. We just have a show of, doing a puja, this, that, whatever. But internally, we don't change ourselves. Vipassana has been, has been referred in the Vedas, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Jain literature, in the Guru Granth Sahib, and it's the practical aspect of all this religion. So the religious texts, somehow we have forgotten the practical aspect of the religion, how we need to be a good human being. So Vipassana takes you to the practical path of the religious text. How do you have to be, good human being? And actually, what is Vipassana? See, what is finally religion? Religion is the truth. See, the religion of fire is to burn. So across all religions, I think almost all the religions are the same page. But as I told, we have somehow become ritualistic. Vipassana is the practical which changes, our internal, I would say, the being. So what do we do in the 10 days? So I'll now come to the technique. As was told, the first 3 days, you just watch your breath. You watch the area. These are the nostrils and the area around it. Just observe the breath, the way it goes in and goes out. It is not pranayam. It's not an exercise of the breath, just as it is. Sometimes it is slow. Sometimes it is fast. Sometimes you can feel it. Sometimes you can't feel it. So what happens? I'm keeping my eyes closed and I'm watching. I'm supposed to be watching my breath and what sensations are happening here. I'm closing my eyes and suddenly what happens? The mind wanders away. Mind is like a drunken monkey. The way the mind has got its own habit pattern, the way we live in our today's world, the mind is not in our control. So what is happening? I want to make my mind remain in the present. This is the present. I want to focus on the breath and what sensations are happening in and around the nostrils and below the nostrils. But I close my eyes, within few minutes, I see my mind wanders. Where does it go? Past. These things have happened. Or the future, I'll do following things. So it is rotating between, you want to remain it in the present. Today in all the religions we say, we keep on talking how to remain in the present. You pick up any text and you'll say how to remain in the present. But nobody teaches you in the religious text how to remain in the present. So again, I'm saying this particular practice of focusing on a breath, because breath is what is connecting us to the life. It is not an outside, I would say a god or a candle or a light. Just focus on the breath and see. So you're observing, and as I told you, mind wanders away. So they say, okay, whenever you realize that your mind has wandered away, bring it back. So that bringing back is training your mind to be under your control. And that is very important. See, mind is not under control. In a normal day-to-day, this thing, mind has got its own habit pattern. So this practice of bringing back, whenever you observe it, see, sometimes 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whenever, and in the initial first shibir, it's like I would say, it's like a movie which you see. The mind just wanders away. It's just like a movie. You'll be seeing so many things of the past and the future. And gradually, as you start bringing it over here, it is starting training your mind. And when you go for the second camp and the third camp, I think then you become better and better, and your mind starts coming into your control. So that is the first thing. So first day, you look at the larger portion, and then second day, you focus on this, and third day only on this particular portion. So that improves your concentration tremendously, like a surgeon's knife. It improves your concentration. And from the fourth day, you start seeing from top to bottom what happens in your body. So again, there you're keeping your eyes closed. You're seeing what is happening. So maybe in the hands, I'm getting a good sensation. Maybe in the back after say 15 minutes or 20 minutes, I'm getting a pain. If I'm a tall person, I've got a back problem, or in my legs, I've got a sciatica problem, it'll start paining. Whichever, you may be sitting on a chair, you may be sitting on a cross-legged on the floor, whichever posture you are in. So what is told over there, when the fourth day onwards, when you start doing Vipassana, is whenever you're observing yourself and whenever anything happens, a good sensation or a bad sensation, please don't react to it. And the theory behind this is, in all our Hindu, philosophies or the Indian philosophies, I would say, we are bound by this life and death cycle because of the karma. Whatever karma we have done, we need to, face the music of our karma. If it's a good karma, whatever it is, if the bad karma. And generally what happens is, the karma is like a seed and it keeps on multiplying. In a normal being, what happens is, whenever the karma is coming out, it multiplies. So if it's the karma of anger, it so happens you add fuel to a fire and it keeps on multiplying. So this practice of closing your eyes and seeing, and so some karma is coming out, say the bad sensation, your pain, this, that, or the good sensation. Good sense is the craving, you want the luxuries of life or the cravings of life, and the bad is the aversion. You want to avoid something, some painful things you don't want to do. So you're closing your eyes, you're seeing that, and you're not reacting to it. The karma is built because of the reaction, not because of the action. Action is called for. We all are householders. We are not sannyasis, so we need to, we need to do our day-to-day earning life. So how can you do all these things whilst being nishkarma? Again, nishkarma is one thing which has been talked about in Bhagavad Gita. So how do you have your action by which you don't build karma? So just to give an example, today look at a murderer. Somebody has murdered somebody. Say he's building so much karma because in his mind there is so much ill will against the person who is murdering. And you look at a soldier. He's also killing maybe an enemy, but his mind is full of purity. He's doing it for the safety of his nation. So they're similar acts, but the mental situation is different. The karma is built because of the mental situation, what is there in your mind. So fourth day onwards, you start, sort of sitting and observing yourself, and then you keep on getting deeper and deeper into it. Again, there, many times you get into thoughts. Again, you say, bring back the focus, and, you're making yourself nishkarma. So this is what Vipassana, I would say broadly is. You saw the theoretical experience, I gave you the other experience. And how does it help, us? I have observed myself it helping in our relationship, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it is professional circles. How do you review, your various perspectives of life, the relationships? In case of business, tremendous improvement. Your concentration improves so much. Your decision-making power improves so much. It's unbelievable. and generally many times we procrastinate, on various things. So Vipassana helps you, sort of come to decisions. It helps in skill improvement. Vipassana has been found useful in Tihar jail, in various jails in the country, in transforming the criminals. See, today the jail is supposed to be for rehabilitating and transforming the criminals. But unfortunately, what has happened is the jails have become the breeding ground for increasing the criminal activities. The smaller criminal because of bigger criminal. But Vipassana has been introduced in the jails also, and it has proven substantially, sort of beneficial to them. In Maharashtra, in the government schools, the Anapan, which I'm going to now show you, the first 3 days of watching your breath, is being taught to the the teachers as well as to students, and the parents are so happy with it. They are going for doing Vipassana based on the children's this thing. And in Maharashtra again, a Happy Village scheme has come in, where Anapan is being taught to all the villagers, for mini Anapan sessions. Just to give you a case of one particular example, how life transforming this thing is. I don't know, Jagdish or, knowing there was a hotelier called Jayant Shetty. And we had a inspector from Igatpuri called Gautam Gaikwad, and he's also a sadhak, and so again, an honest inspector. So Jayant Shetty was having his bars and all those things, the typical this thing. And to impress this inspector, who was honest inspector, he went to Vipassana just to impress him and to get his things done for his beer bars or whatever the bars were. And it transformed this gentleman so much. He gave up the the beer bar business and all. He went back to his village. He's got some oil mills there, and now he's an assistant teacher. There's another example nearer home. One of our friends called Raghu Acharya. I don't know, some of you know, he's from Matunga. His father was a BD seller, BD. Raghu, as a youngster, did one of the Vipassana Shivers, and he decided that he doesn't want to do for a living something which is going to destroy people. BDs hurt people. So he ventured into Agarbatti's business, and today is one of the biggest exporters of Agarbattis in the country, and he's done very well for himself. So that conviction and that is available if you go to Vipassana. I would, here want to pause for a little bit. I would request Sridhar if we can play the 10-minute Anapan just to give you a taste. So I can keep on speaking, but what Vipassana is, the first part of it, the 3 days, watching your breath. There's a 10-minute capsule which Guruji has, done. If that can be played. Sridhar, are you there?
Sridhar, we are unable to hear so far.
It'll take some time. Now it may start in some time. Yeah. First 20 seconds or not, something, I think it's halted at 19 seconds, Sridhar. There is some patience, I think, within a couple of seconds it will.
Now let us practice Anapana for about 10 minutes. Practice Anapana. Sit comfortably. In any posture that suits you. Keep your back and your neck straight. Keep your eyes gently closed. Those who wear spectacles should take off their spectacles during meditation period. Keep your mouth gently closed and focus your entire attention on the area at the entrance of the nostril. The area at the entrance of the nostril. And remain aware of every breath coming in, every breath going out. Natural breath, normal breath, as it is, as it is. If it is long, it is long. If it is short, it is short. Passing to left nostril. Passing to right nostril. Or through both the nostrils. Just remain aware, do nothing. Just remain aware. Alert, attentive, vigilant. Remain alert, attentive, vigilant. Constantly aware of the breath, incoming breath, the outgoing breath, incoming breath, outgoing breath. Keep your attention steadfastly fixed on this area, the entrance of the nostrils. like a gatekeeper, like a watchman, aware of every breath entering the nostril, aware of every breath moving out of the nostril. Alert, attentive, vigilant. Incoming breath, outgoing breath, natural breath, pure breath, nothing but breath. Avatu sabda mangalam, avatu sabda mangalam, avatu sabda mangalam.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Good, good. Be happy, be happy, be happy.
Thank you, Sridhar. Friends, this was the taste of the Anapan, that is the first 3 days which you do. What I'm going to now tell you, friends, is the schedule over there. If you're interested, what is the schedule? The day you reach is called the day 0 there. You should be reaching in the afternoon and register yourself, do the formalities, registration formalities, get your room allocated. Then around, I think, 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, you go get into the meditation. You have your last meal at 5 o'clock, whichever they give at that point of time. And 6 o'clock, you go into the meditation room. And they'll give you the instructions, how it has to be done, what has to be done. And by 9 o'clock, I think you hit the bed. 9 o'clock, the lights are turned. 9:30 or 10, the lights are turned off. So 9 o'clock, generally, it's closure. Next day, that is the day 1, the session starts. You are woken up at 4 o'clock. There are bells and there are volunteers 4 o'clock you wake up. 4:30 to 6:30 is the first session, which is generally free. You can, do in the meditation hall, or for old meditators, you can go to small cells, which are like caves, which you can sit and, do your meditation there. 6:30 is breakfast time, 6:30 to 7:15. And then there is, you can take your bath, get fresh, get ready till 8 o'clock. 8 to 9 is a compulsory session, which everybody has to do in the meditation hall. Then again, there's a 5-10 minute break. The old meditators go to the cells so that they don't get disturbed by the new meditators. The new meditators continue to be in the hall where the teachers call them, turn by turn, 3-4 people each. And continuously instructions are going on. The way Guruji gave instructions here, there also the instructions are going on continuously what to do. So from 9-10 till 11 o'clock, the old meditators are in the cells and the new meditators are in the hall. They continue meditating. 11 o'clock is lunchtime. In the breakfast, there's generally an Indian, snack, which is there. I'm talking of the Indian centers. I don't know. I have not been abroad. So in the Indian center, there's an Indian snack, either a idli or a poha or a upma or a sabudana khichdi, or that is there. There's brown bread. There is porridge, milk tea, etc. And I think fruits. And 11 o'clock is lunch. Lunch is a typical Indian meal, chapati, two sabjis, either a dal or a curry or a rice or a pulao or a whatever. And once in those 10 days, there could be bajri ki roti or something, or jawari ki roti. So that's the lunch time, 11 to 11:45. Then you rest till 1 o'clock. 1 to 2:30 again is you can meditate either in the hall or in the cell or at your residence. 2:30 to 3:30 is a compulsory session where everybody has to be together, old and new meditators in the hall. Then again, there's a break time for 5-10 minutes to, attend the nature's call, etc. Then again, the meditation continues from 3:40 to say maybe 5 o'clock in the hall or in the cell, as the case may be. 5 o'clock is again a break time where for the normal average student, that's the last meal where for the first timers, there is what we call murmura, puffed rice, vagara or murmura, plus there is fruit, milk and tea. For old meditators who are normal, there is only limbu sharbat. And those who have got any medical problems, for say they're taking some tablets for which some food has to be given, or that many times pregnant women go there. For them, food is arranged, so they get a meal at around 9 o'clock and maybe at 5 o'clock also. So 5 to 6 is, one is this whatever the snack time and whatever, you can take your walks, etc., free your body up. 6 to 7 again is a compulsory session where you meditate inside the hall, everyone together. Then again a 5-10 minute break. 7:10 till almost 8:30, 8:45 is Guruji's discourse every day, which generally, is very, very interesting. It tells you what is in your mind. You get answers to a lot of your questions on the meditation in Guruji's, speaking. Of course, you can go and there are assistant teachers which are there who are taking the course. You can ask your specific questions to them from 12 to 1 in the meditation hall, or you can go to the residence and ask them. That is available. But most of your questions get answered by Guruji's discourse at around 7:10 to 7:15. And there are Hindi discourse and English discourses also. For those people who understand Hindi, I would recommend Hindi because that is the mother tongue of Guruji. So he's very fluent and very, more articulate. But for those who are used to English, they can attend the English version also, which is also equally good, of course. And then again, there is 10-15 minutes meditation at around 8:30, 8:45. And 9 o'clock, the session gets over. Those who have got any question, they can ask the assistant teachers from 9 to 9:30. And then you go to your room and, hit the bed. So there's a typical routine, which is there for the first 9 days. And in the 9 days, you're completely silent. You can only talk to the teacher or to the volunteer. I reiterate, you cannot talk to your co-meditators. On the last day, you can talk to the co-meditators. The reason why you can't talk to them, because different people have different experiences. So I can give an example. The first camp which I did, luckily I had Vallabh Bansali, of Inam, who was there in that particular shibir. On the last day, when we could talk, he told me, Nilesh, I was feeling that there's electricity flowing in my body. Had he told me on the third day or the fourth day, I would have got expectation gap. Arey, mere ko to nahi hua. Vallabh Bhai is much more spiritually, or religiously, he's much more knowledgeable. He's expert in yoga also. So he was more in tune of whatever was happening to him, and not necessarily it happens to me. So good that he didn't tell me on the first 3-4 days. So that's the reason they said, please don't talk to each other for the first 9 days. 10th day, you can, of course, before you go to the normal world, you can talk to each other. One thing I wanted to mention about the 4th day onwards, when you start doing Vipassana, keeping eyes, I told you there are good sensation, bad sensation. What the theory there is in life, nothing is permanent, good or bad. And that you experience it, we expect it theoretically or intellectually, but how to, deal with it. When something good happens to us, we start jumping in the air with joy. And something bad happens to us, we start crying and desponding, depression, whatever it may be. So how do you, when we know intellectually that nothing is permanent, good or bad, how do you remain equanimous? So this practice teaches equanimity, and I'll tell you how. So you're keeping your eyes closed, you're seeing what is happening from top to bottom. So there's a pain in the back. And I'll give my own example, why I should be seeing. During the 3 compulsory session, morning 8 to 9, 2:30 to 3:30, and 6 to 7, from the 4th day onwards, when they start teaching Vipassana, what is being advised there is, what is told, as far as possible, whatever posture you're taking, take a firm determination that you will not move yourself. You're sitting cross-legged, don't move yourself. You're sitting on a chair, don't move yourself. Your hands, legs, or your eyes, don't open your eyes and don't move your hands and legs. In my case, what happens, I'm a tall person, I've got a back problem, typical, which is there for most of the people with desk jobs. So I couldn't, for the first 3 camps which I did, I couldn't sit, 1 hour continuously cross-legged down. Always the pain used to be so unbearable in the back that I used to move myself, sometimes 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 15 minutes. In the 4th camp, which I did, I decided, I took a firm determination. I'm not going to do, move come what may. And friends, believe me, the amount of pain was so unbearable. My whole focus, forget the meditation, my whole focus was on the back, and it was just paining, and absolutely unbearable pain. I don't know, somewhere around 50 or 55th minute, the pain just exploded. I don't know what happened. And I could, from that Shibir onwards, now I can sit down continuously for 1 hour at that particular point of time, 8 to 9, 2:30 to 3:30, whenever I go for a camp. I'm able to sit for 1 hour, without moving myself. So what has helped is it has helped the determination, number 1. It has brought that particular, it is imbibed in me that nothing is permanent. We keep on talking, we intellectually accept. But when it comes to us, we don't, face it. And I'll tell you how it has helped me in my life. I became chairman of Federal Bank in the year 2015 or 16. I didn't jump in the air. For anybody else, a chairman of a private sector bank is something to, for me, it was normal. Okay, it is one of the things which just come the way. Fine. I was equanimous. I became vice president of ICI in February 16 and president in February of 17. Again, it was a duty, more happy, but not jumping in the air. Some of the biggest tragedies have happened with me, which could happen to anybody. That time also, I'll tell you, that was a real test. For the first 7 days, I was like brave like a man, the death in the near family. 7th day, some thoughts started hurting me. Why should it happen to me? I have not wished ill of anyone. I have not done harm to anyone. Why should it happen to me? Luckily, thanks to Vipassana, it alerted my mind. That mind is trying to play with you. Please be careful. It was an automatic alarm, not that anything it is there. So I would say what we intellectually sort of accept, but when it comes to us, we are not able to face it. This practice helps you face your, I would say day-to-day challenges. I would say ups and downs in life. How you remain equanimous. I think equanimity in any situation, and it helps you in dealing with situations also. So it helps in, it is called anitya. Life, nothing is permanent. It's anitya, as you told in the Hindi terminology. So how do you ingrain in your life? And it removes addiction. There are a lot of physical benefits, medical benefits if you go, but please don't go. Guruji was turned away by Sayaji Ubakin when he went there to cure his migraine. He said, don't come here to cure your migraine. This is something which is going to take you beyond life and death cycle. So this is a very small thing, your migraine and all those things. So there are a lot of physical benefits which happen there once you start practicing. So Ketan is also here. Ketan, do you want to add anything if I missed out before we get into the Q&A session? Or emphasize something more on some matters?
Yeah, so
Ketan, my younger brother.
So basically, for those 10 days, when you take the pledge of Panchashil, that you will not steal, you will not take any intoxicants, you will not lie, or you will not speak lies, you will be in complete silence, and you will not indulge in any sexual activity. So you are actually living the life of a monk. Even it's complete dissolution of your ego. You go there for 10 days, you are not paying for it, so therefore no ego which is built up. There are no expectations. You are standing in a queue as the same as a farmer who may be before you, or a industrialist who may be after you, and you are in the same queue for the food. You are in the same queue wherever it is allocation of seats in the Dhamma hall or whatever. So actually you are living the life of a monk for those 10 days. And where will you get this opportunity to live the life of a monk being a householder? So these are the benefits or the indirect benefits what you get out of those 10 days being in Vipassana. All you are doing, whether it by way of anapan, that is the observation of your breath during the first 3.5 days, or observing any sensation that comes up on the body from top to bottom, from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet, any sensation in a chronological order, you are observing and you are not reacting to it. So all you are doing during these days is purifying your mind. And why are you purifying your mind? To attain the ultimate goal which anybody in life would deserve or would aspire for. That is, attain Nibbana whenever the time comes. So this is what I had to share, before we could fall into question answers. I believe the most of the question answers which we normally get are on the timetable, which people feel is absolutely, ridiculous. Getting up at morning 4 o'clock and right up to 9 o'clock. So number one, the physical tiredness during that time. And number two is, what do you do during that, almost like 15-16 hours of the day? I believe the question answers mainly hover towards that. So if there are any question answers, both Nilesh, myself, and maybe Jagdish and Umesh also would be able to chip in.
I think that is what I wanted to share about Vipassana. I hope I've given you a brief between myself, and Ketan also chipped in where I sort of missed out in case. So I think we'll open it to questions so that more clarity could come. I've already got a question on my private, on the chat in the private. Madhulika is asked, thanks for this session. It would be nice if you can share a bit about the difference between this and what Art of Living and Isha Foundation teaches. Madhulika, I don't know about Isha Foundation. Of course, I know about Jaggi Vasudev, I respect him. But Art of Living, what I have been told, again, I have not done myself, is basically 5 things. It is, Sudarshan Kriya, some bit of yoga, pranayam, and meditation. The meditation part of it is nothing but Vipassana. That's what I've been told. Because Sri Sri Ravi Shankar ji himself has done Vipassana. And possibly for there, he would have seen this title of Art of Living and done it. Good luck to him. But it's a very good thing. But it is a combination of 4-5 things together. Whereas Vipassana is only meditation. And another thing which I wanted to point out is during those 10 days, you have to take because you want to give it a fair trial, you have to, give up all your other, I would say, practices which you're doing. For example, I'm a Jain and I'm used to, chanting the Naukar mantra and all. So what is told is those 10 days, you give a full trial to this particular technique. Not that you, after coming back, of course, even now I go to Jain temples, I chant a Naukar mantra, etc. Fine. There's no bar to that. But during those, just to give a full justice to this particular practice, don't do any other, practice along with this. So Art of Living is good. It is a combination of 4-5 things, which definitely helps. But this is pure meditation. Nothing else. You can do yoga or any physical activity during a free time, not during the time which you're supposed to be doing meditation. It's pure meditation and purifying your mind. I hope that answers you, Madhulika.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, Madhulika.
I think other people can ask questions.
Yeah, Madhulika, on 26th of this month, we are inviting one senior person to do a talk on Isha Foundation as well on this 26th of this month. So
yeah, I would love to join that too.
Yeah, please do that. So we will be inviting everybody on 26th of this month.
Thank you. Please keep my email ID handy.
Sure.
Thanks.
Satish, you want to ask?
Yeah, I just had a clarification more than a question, Nilesh. Thank you for thank you, Nilesh and Ketan for this one. I just had one clarification. You said something about old meditators and new meditators. I didn't quite get that point.
See, basically the difference is when you go for the first time, you're raw into a lot of things. You're understanding, you're getting your feet together over there in the technique, in the new environment of not talking, etc. So you are under direct focus of the assistant teacher. The moment you're done one shibir, even if you've finished one shibir, you know the basic nuances, you know the schedule, and you're going for the second time, then you don't want to be disturbed by the day-to-day the routine. So there are small cells which are available there, just like a gufa-like cell, but man-made. You can go and meditate there. So old meditators, right from day one, they start going into the cells during the 3 hours are compulsory: 8 to 9, 2:30 to 3:30, 6 to 7. Everybody has to be in the hall. The discourse is in the hall, 7:15 to 8:39. But balance time, the old meditators are, they can just go to the cells, so they don't get disturbed by the newcomers. The teacher talking to them, what's happening, they'll call in the batches of 3, 4, 5 people each, and how it is going, what is going. So in the meditation hall, there's disturbance. So the old meditators not getting disturbed, they can, after doing one shibir, you can just go to a cell and start meditating there. For what reason you're gone there. I've got one, message on the chat by, again, privately, it is by Jairam Rajshekhar. Thank you, Nilesh ji. Very inspiring, grateful to your talk and that of Ketan ji. I would like to attend a session or two more on consecutive Saturdays and learn more from you. Because Jairam ji, what we gave you was only a glimpse or a taste of what Vipassana is. The proof of the cake is in eating, and we would recommend is you do a 10-day shibir. The centers were closed during the pandemic thanks to the government restrictions. They have restarted now, of course, at a very, very small capacity. For example, at Igatpuri, where the main center is, where we were accommodating 500 people. Thanks to the pandemic, we can't give more than one person in a room. We had some single rooms, one person room, some 2 people room, some 3 people room. So our capacity has shrunk to almost 25% of what the original capacity is. So my recommendation would be, please take out 10 days, do a camp, and that will give you a full idea. I don't think we'll not be reiterating this, on every Saturday. As Jagdish pointed out, we are having somebody from Isha Foundation or some other course on different Saturdays. So my suggestion to you would be, please do a 10-day camp, and I think that will give you a lot of more clarity. And another thing I can recommend is, please go to the website called dhamma.org if you want to understand more. I'll put it on the chat also. It is called www. It will give you more details of what, and you do a search on Vipassana, I think you'll get a lot of things on the Google.
Sure, Nilesh, thank you so much.
Yeah. I'm not able to send the message anyway. For some reason, it's not going. But dhamma.org, Dhamma. It is not Dharma. I'm just reiterating, dhamma.org.
Okay, thank you.
Hemanti, you want to ask your question?
Yes. Sir, I have done Vipassana twice so far and not got an opportunity to go back again. But I just wanted to add to the experience that after the 10 days, did you face any, adjustment that had to be done, because suddenly you are in a polluted environment of noise and, talking, and did you feel a drain of energy after a 10-day thing? Because I felt that tremendously, and I had to really shut myself out for a few days till I could adapt to the normalcy of life.
I agree with you fully. See, what happens is 9 days you are with yourself. You're not with anybody. You're just observing yourself, and you're outside all the clutter of the noise, etc. And suddenly when you come out of that's the reason, the reason for allowing you to interact with people is you become slightly more normal when you hit the normal life. So that's an intermediate stage, 9 days silence with yourself. 10th day you are with people, mixing with people, and then you go out. And I agree with you. Suddenly, when what happens, you're so used to the peace, no noise, etc. With yourself, and suddenly the cacophony of the city, especially a city like Mumbai and all. I think that comes on you. But yeah, I think you get used to it within some time then.
Secondly, it is better, Hemanti, that if you are to yourself after also coming from there for a couple of days. See, basically for those 8-9 days, there's a deep surgical operation of your mind. So after the deep surgical operation, even in a hospital, you need to convalesce. You need to, come back to normal. So, and that is the reason after the 9 days of silence, there's a 1 day of opening up over there only, where you start talking, but you start talking within the fellow meditators. So what at best you will talk is about meditation. How were your 10 days? So that way. And after that, you will travel back home. And when you travel back home, that is the day 12, which is essentially normally a Sunday. So that's where the organizers feel that, you are back with your family. You are not again exposed to the entire world, but again being back with your family on a Sunday, and you're there. And from Monday, you again start your operation, your daily activity or your career activity. So that's how it is planned. But nevertheless, if you feel that, you still want seclusion and be with yourself, and if you have the time, it would be more advisable that, you a couple of days more, if you are with yourself. So it will bring back to normalcy more in a phased manner rather than out of a jerk.
Okay. Okay. And do you practice this even thereafter or only during the 10 days?
Yeah. We do, in the sense, especially since you have raised this issue, going there for 10 days and then again coming back to normal and not practicing, again you are back to, maybe if not 0, maybe 1 or 2. So to continue the practice daily, morning and evening, 1 hour of sitting. And frankly, the lockout has really helped, where on the day 1 of lockout, I made a strong determination that come what may, be rain or shine, I will practice 1 hour morning, 1 hour evening. And when you declare to the world that, I'm going to do it, it really helps. And it's really helped in this entire period of 5.5 months, 6 months. It was only maybe once or twice, that is 1 hour sitting, not 1 full day, but 1 hour sitting or 2 hours sitting, that I was not able to do. Other than that, it's going perfect.
Hemanti, I can share my experience in this. I was very much caught up in the Institute ICAI a few years back. I was president, vice president. At that time, I couldn't practice. I'll be very honest with you, that 1 hour. And even now during lockdown, what has happened is, from, I would say, practicing once a week, I'll tell you, we have a group meditation as Jagdish said, in our office on Thursday. We open up the boardroom and the meeting rooms, and we almost, depending on the crowd, 30 to 60 people meditate together on Thursday evening, 6:45 p.m. So once depending on where you're staying, you can also join if you want to sort of, and it helps you. The group meditation helps you to sort of restart the whole thing. So I was doing once a week prior to this particular pandemic period, and post the pandemic, Ketan has been able to do 2 hours a day. I have been by and large been able to do 1 hour a day. So that's, of course, again, not 100%, but substantial, I would say, almost majority of the time.
Nilesh, first timers,
yes,
they go first timers and they come back, say they've done it well and they're happy. But, I don't know if the family supports all this. There'll be so much noise and, family doesn't believe in it. And you have a huge family and each one will be disturbing you. You're completely out of it. All that work will just go down the drain because they will just completely get you back into the real world.
Not really. I would not say that, because you will be the biggest example of what you have done during the 10 days. And your family will slowly turn around. It is not that overnight you expect miracles to happen. But okay, with your how you deal with your family after you come back, the proof of the pudding would be in the eating. So how you deal with the family.
You're like whatever, you're head of the family, so the whole family runs around. We always look after the man of the house and whatever he likes to eat, what time he sleeps, we really look after as a family member, wife, whatever, mothers and all. So we do have some kind of importance. I'm not saying no, but for women to come back and again get back to this thing,
all these questions are very well addressed. All these questions are very well addressed during the 10 days. The 1.5 hours discourse, what Nilesh was mentioning, what Guruji gives during that, they are so well thought of and so exhaustive that they cover each facet of life.
Okay.
And even this is covered not from this times, but during the time of the Buddha. When Buddha was there, there were ladies who used to come for meditation, and they used to find it difficult because the entire family was against the meditation and they were the only ones who were meditating. And how through their behavior and their behavior, they used to demonstrate, and they got a change in the entire family. That So it's wonderful. All the questions are put at rest when we go over there. I believe hardly there would be any questions we would be coming back with unresolved.
I can just share one experience, Mrs. Rao. I mentioned about Raghu Acharya. Of course, I'm naming him. As I told you, his father was selling BDs. And when he came back from the first Shibir, you can appreciate, he said, I don't want to do the BD business. You know, what is this? It is killing people and all. And the father would have given him whatever his peace of mind. But because of Raghu's behavior, because what he started, you know, doing a different business, which was more, I would say, not hurting other people, his parents went for this Shibir. And that is happening across. There is, I don't know whether you heard of a company called Khosla Compressors earlier time, not a recent one, in Pune. Dr. Raman Khosla was doing medicine. He was studying for medicine education, and he was becoming a psychologist. He was doing MBBS and in possibly specializing in psychology, or MD. I think maybe he was doing MD. He did his first course during his student days, and he decided that is going to be his way of life. Coming from an industrious family, no challenge of money and all, and so he must have told his parents that I want to devote my whole life for Vipassana. So his parents must have thought this fellow has become mad again. Then his parents did the Shibir and then allowed him to take his path.
I would like to add that before I was a non-vegetarian, and I had attended his one lecture at Narsimmunji, and then I left non-veg. Now my entire family is not eating non-veg for last 28 years. So just if you have that intention that you can do it, then the rest of the family will also follow. So I'm sure that each one will find something very, very interesting in what he speaks. He is just very inspiring, and that's what I loved in those that days, which I spent 11 days in Vipassana. And I think the voice of Guruji, I think straight away goes into your heart, and then it transforms your heart without you knowing it. The minute you do the effort, you are going to struggle. The minute it gets done, it gets done. So you just have to surrender to something which is higher, and that gets done. And we are not talking about just the body. We are talking about liberation, which is far, far, far beyond what you can ever imagine. And I'm, I'm thankful to the Vikamsi family to having introduced us. Maybe I'm not doing that much, but other things have started coming in. It's the path that gets opened up, and that is what you have to be open about. That's my, small request or humble submission to you. Don't go with this should happen and that should happen. It is something much more than that. Yeah. So that's my.
Nilesh, there are a couple of questions in the chat. Vinod Runalji, what is the difference between Anupreksha and Vipassana?
Vipassana. See, Anupreksha, I'm not again I told you, I'm not such a spiritually enlightened person. But my impression is, if you're talking of Ladnu and one of our Jain gurus who started, I forget that particular name, Preksha Dhyan. If you're talking of Preksha Dhyan, the Jain Muni who started Preksha Dhyan had attended Vipassana. He wanted to start teaching Vipassana, but our own community members didn't allow him to preach Vipassana. So what he did is, he started doing Preksha Dhyan, which is nothing but Vipassana. And Ladnu, I think Ladnu somewhere in Rajasthan, that is the base. If you're talking the same thing, but if there is something else, then I'm not the right person to answer. I'm not aware of what Anupreksha is. If you're talking of Preksha Dhyan, it is absolutely similar. And I'm telling you, the Jain Muni who started it was inspired by Vipassana. He was not allowed to preach Vipassana in Jainism. So he started, he just changed it and named it Preksha Dhyan and started preaching it from Ladnu. I hope that answers.
Madhulika, you still have some questions?
We can put your videos on. Everybody can put your videos on so that, the question answers.
Madhulika's question has been answered. How much of the discipline routine that you have practiced are you able to answer? Yeah. Then I think switching your dietary choice, big change. Okay, that's a comment. Practicing no reaction to begin with, great lesson. Now these are all comments, I think they're not questions. Okay.
Nilesh, you could also talk about the three basic concepts of Shila, Samadhi, and Prajna in some way. That is the foundation of how, You can speak about a little bit about that.
Yeah. And so, okay, thanks. I didn't want to get into more into technicals, but what they call is the whole theory of Vipassana is Shil, Samadhi, Pragya. What is Shil? The Panch Shil, what we call, not killing anything, not stealing, no sexual misconduct, etc., etc. There is a Panch Shil. Samadhi is basically what the meditation you're doing, which leads to Pragya. Pragya is wisdom. I don't know, Jagdish, if that is what, Ketan, if you want to add, or Jagdish, you want to add more to it.
Yeah, so Samadhi is basically the 3.5 days. Shil is the foundation of the meditation of the 5 precepts that we have taken. Samadhi is the observation of the breath during the first 3.5 days. So through Samadhi, we reach the stage of Pragya, which is the Vipassana. And that's the Shil, Samadhi, Pragya. And after Pragya is the Metta Bhavana. So on the last day, we, after having got whatever little purification of mind we have, we share the merits, what we have gained during these 10 days with the entire world. And we share the Metta Bhavana with all. So the goodwill, with all. And that's on the last day. So that completes the course of Vipassana in those 10 days.
Yeah, what I would like to add is that, once you have stilled your mind, there's a deeper wisdom that emerges. So that includes equanimity and impermanence. So these are very it's a fundamental understanding that everything is impermanent and everything is, you have to look at everything with equanimity, and that is the prajna. And that if it stays with you, then you can be living your moment to moment in complete acceptance. And that is the wisdom. I mean, for me, I'm not sure about others, but at least for me, the essence was equanimity and impermanence. And then if I'm able to live that way, so then my life is much more better. So that is the wisdom that I would say as the prajna for me.
Jagdish,
different people, yes.
You mentioned initially that a lot of people tell me, how have you been able to multitask so many things? Initially practice, then counsel, then directorship, this, that, blah, blah, blah. So the success has been, thanks to Vipassana, you always remain in the present. So say currently I'm in a board meeting, my whole focus is the board meeting. I'm in the institute at that point of time, my whole focus was the presidentship, vice president, council member, whatever job. I'm in my practice, so the whole focus is in that point of time. So that comes automatically to you. So remaining in the present, how it benefits you. So then you can multitask in the sense of, in life always there has to be some balancing. Sometimes you play, more weight. For example, during my ICA days, again, I'm saying it's an excuse, if you can say so. I couldn't practice much. It was a, I would say 17, 18-hour job which was there. So 2 hours culling out for Vipassana meditation was not happening. But I'm saying you have to keep on balancing life. Sometimes you pay more, weightage to certain aspects of life, depending on which phase of life you are in. But that comes automatically. Whereas you need not have an effort to do that. Any other questions?
Hey, hi Nilesh, this is Ganesh. Hi Nilesh, this is Ganesh.
Hi.
Yeah, nice to listen to this talk from you, I mean, being classmates in a very different space. Now, sort of listening to this, very comprehensive, very nice. Good to listen to Ketan also. We used to do yoga together a long time back, if he remembers. And one of the things I wanted to ask you, Nilesh, is that you have been practicing, luckily, this Vipassana for a long time now. So over a period of time, have you experienced, was your experience different when you did it at a younger age? And maybe, after every, 5 years, 10 years, if roughly you can tell us if there has been a difference in experience that you
Excellent
noticed.
question. I was going to speak on that and I've missed it somehow. I can share my first Shivir, what happened. See, one of the reasons possibly why Mukund would have pushed me to do Vipassana, I can share with you. As I told, I was very successful at the age of before 21. I became a CA, became a partner, a huge volume of work coming in that time, new introduction of tax audits and all those things. And I didn't realize, but I was very, very short-tempered. And expectations, you have people up to your expectations. So maybe a new article coming in, not knowing about bank reconciliation or what, I'm just giving an example. The amount of firing I used to do to that person, I think that fellow's flight would have been terrible. But the more problematic thing, I was also unhappy. It used to take me 1 hour to rewind. The amount of short-temperedness which I had in the first Shibir, before I went for the first Shibir. Possibly that could have been the reason why Mukund would be pushing me to do Vipassana, I'll say. First Shibir got over, Ganesh, my short-temperedness has gone away. I do get angry. Like for work, you need to show anger to get your work done. But I don't get angry inside. I show anger to get work done. So that is a very fine distinction which came in the first Shibir itself. So that was 1989. 1990, I got married. I had my first son at the end of 1990. January, I got married, and November, I had my first son. So life became, more family orientation. 1995 was the second. Before 1995, I could find myself that I was becoming irritable again. As Hemanti mentioned, what happens in between Shibirs. So the whatever fuel or whatever petrol I had filled in with purity and all in 1989, by 95, that was in some other cases, it may be more long lasting or less long lasting. I don't know. But in my case, I could feel the difference that I'm changing, for the worse around 94, 95. So I went for my next Shibir in 95. Then I made it a practice, decided to go every year. But currently my average is once in 2 years, again, thanks to all the other commitments in life and with this ICI and all those things. So that was the major, observation between, I would say, 89 and 95. And later on, I would tell you what is happening is your understanding is improving. As you gain more experience in life, your understanding of Vipassana also improves, because I'll tell you, there's so much wisdom into it. But you are not capable. I'm saying at the earlier part of your life, your younger age of your life, you may not comprehend a lot of things. But as you start progressing in age, your comprehension improves. Even use of word. Guruji uses so pure Hindi and his discourses in Hindi and all. And every time you get a new meaning, additional meaning, which you would have, not understood in the earlier Shibirs. So understanding keeps on becoming deeper and deeper. And I have still not done 20-day Shibir. Ketan has done 20-day Shibir. And I'm told that is still, a different level. After doing certain level of camps, you can keep on progressing into it. So my next target is to do the 20-day Shibir, as and when I can do the first one at the earliest opportune available time. So you keep on, your understanding keeps on increasing.
May I ask you one quick question, which is, do you think that it becomes necessary for everyone to keep going back more and more Shibirs, or maybe the first one itself makes such a change for you that you don't really feel the compulsion to go back? Or how does this work? I mean,
I gave my example. Madhulika, I gave my example. I didn't go to 94 because, again, I said family, got married, got a son, the practice also must have increased at that point of time. And, but 95, I felt internally that there was a problem within me, and I was not practicing also regularly that time. So it made me go. What is recommended is at least you do one Shibir a year. That's a recommendation. So it's like, it's like you're rehauling yourself, you're recharging your batteries every year. One is the regular practice, and one is, you go there for 10 days, at least you recharge your batteries and come back. So they're good for another year or so. That's what the recommendation is.
So let me ask you this related. So if you are following your practice, whatever you have learned, and if you really make that a part of your lifestyle, change thinking, you still need the Shibir?
One does. See, what is happening in day-to-day life, you're doing one day, the environment is not the same. You're doing it in your, in your residence or in your office or whatever the place may be. The environment is different, and it's not continuously for 10 days. 10 days, 20 days, if you do continuously, there's a huge difference. See, you compare 2 hours versus there you practice for, almost, say, 10 to 12 hours a day. I'm saying the effective practice. The whole day is up to 15, 16 hours, but maybe 10 to 12 hours of practice there, and versus compared to 2 hours, there's a, difference. Zameen Asman ka farak hai. There's a huge difference between what you do here and what you do there. Just by the quantum involved, quantum of practice involved.
I get it. So every time you go back to the Shibir, but the routine, the daily practices and the daily timings and everything is exactly the same, right?
Exactly the same.
Okay.
See, I'll just tell you what it is. First, the 10-day, the routine is absolutely same. After you do 3, 10-day camps, you can do something called Sakti Patan, which is a 9-day thing. It is 1 day less. Only difference there is it's much in the 10-day thing. It is the Guruji's discourse is very, very lively for a common man. Here, since you have done already 3 Shibers, the Guruji's discourse slightly more intense. Some years, the use of Pali language, because the original writings are in Pali. So that's the difference between, you know, and it's a base for getting into 20 days. Satipathan is a base for you to getting a 20-day camp. So it's the routine is same. The routine, there's no change of routine. Only the discourse becomes more intense of Guruji, and there is some, you know, use of Pali language just to get used to the 20-day Shibir.
Because thanks, because a lot of stuff that I actually was interested to find out. I'd gone onto the website and all that, but this has been much more helpful, you know, Nilesh, the way you and Ketan and you know, whatever background you've given, practices and the examples you've shared has made me understand this a lot better. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are, I don't know, in the chat, is there any other questions? Okay, Hemanti, you can, through Jagdish or whoever you're in touch with, you can connect with us, you know, for privately for the Thursday sessions. We'll add you to that. We'll take a number and to the group. Post the pandemic, we'll be starting the session again.
Just one more question, if possible.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Is this?
Any more questions? I'm available. Satish, for the other participants also. I thought just.
Okay.
Lastly, I'm going to play the Maitri song. That's the reason I want people to hold on if they can. We have the Maitri song, which is
We'll all of us will be there till the end. Is this program center agnostic, in the sense every center wherever you go, the kind of same kind of a program?
Absolutely.
I'm sure it will.
Absolutely, it's a standard routine all across the world. How it is, you know, done. Only the difference could be the food could be slightly different. For example, you do at Igatpuri, the food will be different. I had done one Shibir in Bada in Kutch. So there the food was slightly more Gujju type. That slight variation, and maybe if you do internationally in some center, say in Switzerland or in the US or in Australia, the food component could be varying. But that is vegetarian food. There is no non-veg over there. So, and no use of onions or garlic. They use potatoes, but there's no use of onions or garlic. Potatoes are used. And the food quality or the variety of food could be different. The taste could be different. But otherwise, as far as the meditation practice, the routine is absolutely standard.
First time you go, do you need to have not that you can talk to each other, but someone who can push you to go, or on your own you're okay to go?
On your own you're okay to go. The only challenge is getting a booking there. The highly sought after there's a demand supply issue now. With the pandemic, I think there's going to be much more challenge because the capacity is reduced. We had a 500 capacity, we are now down to 125 in the biggest center, which is Igatpuri. So there is where some help will be required. There, of course, you can go in by car, by train, whatever way you can. Reach in the afternoon. There are volunteers there who will guide you. And if you want, you can go in, you know, you two of you also can go, but you'll have to live separately. They can't talk to each other.
Yeah, I know, of course. All right.
So there's no harm in 2-3 people going, but have self-discipline, not talk to each other and talk on the last day. But there's no challenge there.
Is it very cold in Igatpuri when you go and you're not talking and, you know, whatever you're all the
It
time?
depends on the season.
Cold.
For example, if you had gone just about a month back, it would have been continuously raining there, and the walls would have been damp and all a little bit. You go in winter, it'll be cold. You go in summer, it is pleasant. It's hot, but it's completely green and lush green over there. So that is the Igatpuri center. There's a center near SL World in Bombay. There's another center at Belapur on the Parsik Hill. There's another center at Titwala. I'm saying nearby Bombay, which the centers are. In Pune, there are 2 centers. And so like that, it is spread all over. There's a very good center in Jaipur. There's a center in Hyderabad. There's a center in as at Kutch. There's Rajkot. Small places now centers are happening. But Igatpuri is the oldest and the biggest center. That's the only difference over there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nilesh, you need to just experience the ambience there and the energy. I think that itself will take you to the next level at Igatpuri.
The vibration, what we call the vibrations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nilesh,
the amount of people who have meditated there, yeah.
Yeah. How do we register? Is it available online registration, and what are the charges? And you can answer this then.
The charges are zero. It is completely free. As Ketan mentioned, at the end of the Shibir, if you want, you can donate, or you can come back and then donate later on. There is no compulsion how much to donate, what to donate. It's completely your volition. It has started with one cottage in Igatpuri, and today we have got a capacity of 800. The 500 for the main center. There are two small centers over there, 800 capacity, and all across the world there are centers, all by voluntary donation. And after you've done a shivir, if you go and say, I want to give some donation now before doing the shivir, they'll not accept. So they'll accept only from an old meditator. That is number one. What was the second question, Litesh?
Basically, can I register through website? How do we register? And even in this pandemic, is the right time to go, right? So can we register like that?
Yeah. So as I told you, the website is dhamma.org through which you can register. But currently, I don't know if you can register directly. Great enough. Otherwise, you can through Jagdish, or you can connect with us. We'll try to help you in the registration. In Dhammagiri, which is Igatpuri. Smaller centers, there's a challenge with the number of students getting down with this pandemic. But with Igatpur, we'll try. If you can, if you're saying currently it's convenient for you for the pandemic, we'll see whichever shivir is happening the earliest we can try to register you.
Also, these teachers who actually help us or give the sessions, they are either personally trained by Shri Goenka ji directly, or these are some train-the-trainer course and then how?
Good question. See, there the course which is going on the whole day, there are instances of Guruji which happens, whether it is in the hall, and so the assistant teachers are there just to guide you, during say between 12 and 1 or maybe 9 to 9:30, if you've got some specific personal questions or question on technique, which you're not understanding. So these are teachers who just like train the trainers, people who have gone ahead in this Vipassana career, those who have done number of shivirs, 20 days, 30 days, there's some path. Only then you can become a teacher. You can't become a teacher, just as it is.
Okay. Thanks.
Is there any opportunity for doing voluntary work, like in some Chinmay mission and all? We have some volunteers.
Absolutely.
So
this is completely governed by volunteers. The paid staff are very few. People who are doing in the kitchen, some the cooks and all, they may be paid staff. The people who clean the utensils and all, or the housekeeping staff may be paid. Otherwise, the whole course and everything is run by volunteers. The teacher is a volunteer. The people who are supporting, all of them are called Dhamma Sevaks. They're all volunteers. They don't get paid anything.
Yeah.
So they will be people who have done the course, or that's not a...
Yes.
They would have...
That's a requisite. Prerequisite, yeah. Only then you can have empathy for the people who are doing it. No? Is there any...
Sorry, just one more question. I don't know. I'm a little shaky in asking this question, but I will. Is there, because it's a 10-day, 9-day, you don't talk to anybody, and, I could see there's some thoughts on those lines. Is there anybody who's got so affected that he says, no, he or she says, I can't continue? Or I'm sorry, I'm asking this question. It's a negative connotation.
Right question.
Negative connotation, but I just wanted to know.
I agree with the good that you asked the question. See, typically what happens when you go there, you're in a different environment. You're not talking. And I'll give my example. When I went first time in 1989, Igatpuri town, there is that railways which goes through, and you can hear the engine sound, that horn which is being also done by the... So at 5 o'clock when there's free time, the mind the way it works. That one moment that will come. But then you have to again control your mind. I have come here for this, for my own benefit, there's one. And in each shivir of about 500 people, you'll get 1 or 2 people who are, I would say, for example, one shivir I attended, there were 2 Jain, students. I'm also Jain, incidentally. They kept on arguing and talking during the 9 days that this is what is there in Jainism and this is what is there. So what is said, after 9 days, you do a comparison, there's no challenge. But when the practice is going on for 9 days, give it full justice. Don't talk during those 9 days. So then they were advised, the day 1, day 2, they were not heeding. Then they had to be asked to be, moved out. So there could be, 1 or 2 people who on their own or maybe on the indiscipline, they will be asked for, or they are not able to, there could be, so I would say 99% there is no problem. 1 or 2% there is always people who would move out on the 3rd day, 4th day, 7th day. Yeah.
One question, Nilesh. Typically for this course, what is the total duration, total amount of days that we need to commit?
Good question. It is actually 11.5 days. It starts on a Wednesday. That's called the day 0. You have to reach in the afternoon. So, but on that day, your mobile is available to you till 5 o'clock. So you can talk on mobile. So it's not a loss of a day, but you can be working on the mobile throughout. You have to give your mobile latest by 5 o'clock, lock that in. So there are no newspapers, no TV, no mobile. disconnected. You can give the local numbers there. So in case of emergency, your family can, call up the center and they'll inform the student like if there's an emergency. But otherwise, you cannot contact them outside. So that is the day 0. Then 9 days, as I told you, complete month. 10th day is when you start talking to your co-meditators. Starts on a Wednesday. Next Sunday morning, you're free by around 6:37. And you can reach Bombay if you're from Bombay, say by afternoon. So I would say 11.5 days is the end-to-end time which is required, of which you're completely cut off from the mobile for 9 days. 9.5 days, I would say.
I think that itself is an experience.
True.
Is there any uniform in those 9 days?
No, what is said
sorry,
is
Neeraj, I'm sorry. I hope you finished your question. I'm so sorry. Neeraj, your questions are done.
I'm through. So typically it is Wednesday to Sunday. Next Sunday.
Typically it's like that. A good question, Satish. There, of course, there is no uniform. You can wear any clothes which are convenient. For example, you can wear track pants and t-shirts. You can wear kurta pajamas. Only thing, you cannot wear anything. You cannot wear shorts, whether it's a gents or a ladies what. So it has to be, decent clothing, comfortable clothing, where you can sit and meditate. Whatever clothing you can wear, a lungi if you feel so, but fully covered. You cannot be, like sort of. You can't wear shorts or anything of this. Anything which just sort of creates more this thing.
Is there any age restriction?
Age restrictions, I think the starting age is, unless, see, if you're from a family which is practicing Vipassana, there could be some concession. Otherwise, at Igatpuri, they recommend that you come after the age of 21. At other centers, I think it is 18. Having said that, there are some teenager courses which are separately done. For teenagers also, there are courses, but there's which are separate courses which are not as rigorous. For a normal course, normal age is 18, but at Igatpuri center, because it's a very big center and a very center, the vibrations are very strong. The recommendation is you go after the age of 21.
I think Neeraj wants to ask more at the higher end because he may want to take his parents there.
Currently, there was no age restriction, but currently, thanks to pandemic, I think the restriction is 60. Currently, only for the pandemic, not.
Okay.
Because we are worried, even managing the course is a challenge, and with all the restrictions and the protocols which are there. So only for the pandemic. Once the pandemic is out, once we get a medicine or vaccination, then there will be no age restriction at the upper level.
Thank you. Thanks.
So if you're done, I think we'll close with the Maitri. Can I request again Sridhar if he's there to play the Maitri song, and then we'll conclude. And thanks everyone. It has been very helpful for me for sharing, and I hope you get inspired to do Vipassana. That will be the proof of the cake is in eating, as you said. I would recommend each one at least do one, give it a try once. Then I leave it to you whether you like it or not to continue the practice or not is left to you. But at least give it one shot. It is very pure, absolutely non-commercial, zero cost, no charges, no religious. It's not teaching Buddhism. It's not connected to it. Of course, Buddha has taught it, but it's not preaching Buddhism or anything. So please, try it once. That's my recommendation to all. Thank you. Yes, Sridhar, it's up to you for the Maitri song. Is Sridhar there?
Yes. तेरा मंगल होए रे सबका मंगल सबका मंगल सबका मंगल होए रे जिस गुरुदेव ने धर्म दिया है उनका मंगल होए रे जिस जननी ने जन्म दिया है उसका मंगल होए रे पाला पोसा और बढ़ाया उस पिता का मंगल हुए रे, इस जगत के सब दुखियारे, प्राणी का मंगल हुए रे, जल में स्थल में और गगन में सबका मंगल होए रे, अंतर मन की गांठें टूटे, अंतर निर्मल होए रे, राग द्वेष और मोह मिट जाए, शील समाधि होए रे, शुद्ध धर्म धरती पर जागे, पाप पराजित होए रे, इस धरती के सर दिन में कण कण में धर्म समोए रे, शुद्ध धर्म जन जन में जागे, घर घर शांति समोए रे, तेरा मंगल मेरा मंगल, सबका मंगल होए रे।
Thanks,
So
Nilesh.
Nilesh and Ketan, thank you so much for this wonderful session. Mangal Hoye on this Teachers' Day, because you taught us, you introduced us to Vipassana. May all of you be happy, healthy, peaceful, prosperous throughout your life for this session. And I want to tell Guruji's session of minutes were absolutely amazing and uplifting. Just watching that breath gives a certain amount stable mind. And what you talked about in your speech was having goods ups and downs in life, and sailing through equanimity, which this session will help us to do if we do this Vipassana. I was always, I mean, I often go to Nasik, and I was always inquisitive about this Igatpuri Vipassana Center. And now I'm so glad that I met you through Jagdish and Ketan, right? So we have now direct access to that place. I would like to do this session as soon as possible, immediately if possible, in fact, because we've been very inquisitive about this, and it will really help us uplift. Life is anitya, nothing is permanent, is so very true, right? It's all temporary, and we are so involved in day-to-day basis, whether it's our job, whether it is our family, it's all impermanent. And the time that we can try and focus on what is permanent, as Guruji told you, right? Don't come here for backache resolution, come for mukti, which this session will give us. So I really look forward to this session. And since it has been transmigrated in Guru Shishya Parampara, I'm sure the discourses of Guruji, when we do the sessions there, will be quite enlightening and uplifting. Just 10-minute session gave an introduction to that. So it's so beautiful. So again, let me thank you on this Teachers' Day to you, Nilesh and Ketan, both of you. I think thank you so much for introducing Vipassana to us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. And of course, we've missed to get the reaction of people, how they found that breathing thing, 10 minutes breathing, how they found it, which you mentioned, Litesh. You can just post your messages. How do you find that? And of course, that was just again a sample of the, just a small sample of Vipassana. Oh, of
Yeah.
Anapan.
So
Vipassana is the second phase of it. Yeah.
yeah. So can I request everybody to just comment on how did you find Guruji's 10-minute session? It was very enlightening for me, and it just tunes your mind to get stabilized slowly and steadily.
Yeah. So you visualize 3 days of just
And
practicing
one
that,
more,
and yeah, and then 6 days of just watching your.
yeah,
Yes, you're saying something, Sridhar.
yeah,
Litesh.
yeah. Yeah, Nilesh, if you have any other material, pamphlet, anything that you think is relevant for the Lost Key group members, please do send it to Jagdish or Sridhar, and we can
Sure.
post it on the Lost Key group so that anybody who wants to connect, interact, etc. We can do that.
Right. Absolutely. And you can join me also in the Lost Key group for other interesting session. I can also join in.
Nilesh,
Yeah,
most welcome. Absolutely, we'll be delighted. And not only
Yeah.
you, all those people who have come in as guests today, in case you wish to be a part of this family, please be, feel free to join us. We'll be really happy to have you all in. Right? So Nilesh, I'll count you in now. I'll send you an invite.
Please.
Yeah. Thank you.
Interesting.
And even Ketan. Yeah, Ketan?
Sure.
Yeah.
Ketan, I don't know whether he's, because generally 6:35 is our meditation time. So he must have joined, just started his meditation. I don't know whether he's still there or not.
Yeah, his name appears here on the set.
Still?
Yeah.
He's there.
Yes.
He's muted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody
Okay.
else who has to give the last comments? Anybody else? Suresh? Nutan? Kiranji? Naushad?
Actions speak louder than words.
Okay, double.
But fantastic session. I must say,
really
I know Nilesh and Ketan now for such a long time. I visited their office during the inauguration time. And otherwise also, I know Ketan's been sending me a lot of messages, used to send me a lot of messages, which I use in my reading corner. But Nilesh, I think this was really fantastic, the way you so nicely brought it out. And as Ritesh said, there's so many takeaways for each one of us. And I'm sure we'll all pursue this form of meditation. And thank you very much. It was a wonderful Teachers' Day gift to all of us and to you too.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Nilesh, messages are still coming on the chat, if you can see. There's lots of messages.
Yeah.
Done. I just wish that people go for Vipassana as soon as they can.
Absolutely, Nilesh. We were actually I'd scheduled it for this year. Just imagine. It is just a coincidence that this happened. But just you asked about the voice of Guruji. I mean, it was, I should say it was very soothing. I mean, if you listen to that, I think listen to that voice of Guruji, you'll probably take the next,
Ganesh, I was
whatever
trying
vehicle
to.
and get there. Fantastic.
I was trying to get Guruji's Maitri in his Guruji's voice, but somehow, couldn't get that thing. So finally we played, this also was very good, the Maitri. But Guruji, I can share my first experience, 1989 February when I went. Morning, that 4:30 to 6:30 general session. And then Guruji used to give Maitri. And towards the end of the Maitri, he would walk back to his residence, at just from the meditation hall. That was a scene which is so embedded. The aura, was unbelievable. And the Maitri, his voice and the feeling and the vibrations. I think it is just unbelievable. I can't even express how fantastic that was.
If there are any recordings available of Guruji, do share those links if possible. Yeah.
You just go to I'll send one more. There's another Vipassana Research Institute. You can see that website also. I think it is VRI-Dhamma. The name of the organization. So they have a lot of things on the YouTube. Also, a lot of things are there of Vipassana and Guruji.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
perfect.
YouTube,
I'll look out for it.
Goenka ji is speaking on Vipassana is there, Ganesh. You can check it out.
Lot of
Okay,
discourses,
thanks.
lot of things are there. He spoke on I think
Discourses are there,
ZTV also in a program called Urja. If you can find that, that was also very good.
Yeah. Yes. I have heard that.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Thanks. Yes.
Thanks a lot. Thanks everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thanks,
Thank you,
Nilesh.
Nilesh. Fantastic session.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.